These are some of the darkest pop culture conspiracy theories that are going viral right now. If you know anything about me, you know I love pop culture. I love a celebrity moment. Like, I subscribe to all of that shit. I just love it. I can't lie. But anyway, there are a lot of conspiracy theories always happening in the pop culture world, and these are some of the ones that I found to be really interesting right now. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, one that we kind of talked about slightly was Justin Bieber's Yummy music video and the subliminal messaging behind it. I'm not really usually one to be like, this is a subliminal messaging. Like, this means that. I'm not usually like a believer of those kind of things. Like, if there's like a devil in someone's music video, I'm not like, oh my god, they're Satan worshippers. Like, that's just not my vibe. However, I will say this particular music video is super strange, especially when you know things that happened to Justin Bieber as a kid. Like, it's just dark. So for one, I think that the weirdest part was that when he was preparing to release this song, he was posting really weird things on Instagram. They're still up to this day, just a bunch of pictures of babies with the hashtag yummy, which is obviously like very weird. Like, I don't understand what the marketing tactic was there. I just think that's so strange, and I feel like there's no way that it's not sending some sort of a message. I'm just a little bit unclear as to what the message is. This confused a lot of fans because this is obviously a song about his sex life, so it's obviously kind of gross that he used pictures of babies to promote it. When the music video released, something about it just didn't feel right. So at first glance, you got Justin Bieber with pink hair. He walks into this like banquet hall, and it's filled with all these colorful desserts, neon food, and eclectic guests. So he's dancing on tables, he's eating, he's singing to the camera, and then there's also like a bunch of old people there. It's just kind of confusing overall. But as viewers watched, the vibes kind of shifted because they felt like the scene wasn't funny weird, like it was just unsettling weird. Like, there's just this kind of uncomfortable tension between Justin Bieber's over-the-top performance and like the guests remaining silent and stone-faced. Like, I don't know, it just feels weird. And obviously the color palette is super pink and soft pastels, and I don't understand the vibe. A lot of people believe that this specific video relates and correlates to Pizzagate. So Pizzagate, obviously this is like a debunked theory, but it's still a very persistent theory that high-level child exploitation rings were operating out of a DC pizza shop, and that like several people you know were involved, like celebrities, politicians, etc. And a lot of people thought that pizza, hot dog, and cheese were referring to code words, and in these circles the word yummy can have pretty disturbing implications. By 2020, most mainstream coverage had dismissed Pizzagate as a whole and just said it was a dangerous internet hoax, but in conspiracy communities like Reddit and 4chan and on YouTube, this theory never really died. And when Justin Bieber's music video came out for Yummy, a lot of people thought that this was some sort of code and that something here was wrong. All of the people eating at this banquet hall are all well-dressed individuals. They're older, and from like a conspiracy lens, they kind of evoke like the elite, like dining together while enjoying the fruits of exploitation. And the fact that Justin Bieber is the only youthful figure in the room is kind of symbolic. The entire banquet hall also is just pink. It's like pink glow, with many dishes with very childish colors, bubblegum pinks, cotton candy blue, sherbet orange. A lot of conspiracy theorists argue that these aesthetics were marketing towards children while masking darker undertones. So also weird food, like there was jelly molds, and it was just kind of gross. Like, a lot of things got weird close-ups for no reason. And in Pizzagate lore, similar foods were referenced in leaked code emails from the original 2016 scandal. I mean, I personally think that the biggest gasoline towards this conspiracy theory overall has to be the pictures of the children on Instagram with like hashtag yummy. He posted so many pictures of babies using the hashtag yummy. I just think for a promotional choice, that is extremely odd. I don't know why that would be used, if not meaningful of something. And a lot of people think that this was like the smoking gun that connected the word yummy directly to children. So a lot of people think that Justin Bieber was kind of being the whistleblower here. Like, they think that he intentionally made this yummy video coded as an expose of Hollywood's darkest secrets. And I think that that's kind of an interesting point, because obviously we know Justin Bieber grew up with P. Diddy surrounding him. Not a good place to be is under the wing of P. Diddy at 16 years old. But we saw that a lot. And obviously now, knowing what we know about Diddy, I would say it's pretty likely that Justin saw some things that he should not have been seeing at his age. And I do think that him hinting at these darker secrets is an interesting conspiracy theory overall. And Justin has never addressed these allegations either, which, like, if people were saying this about my music video and it wasn't true, like, I feel like I would definitely address that, but he didn't. And I just think overall, like, this theory makes a lot of sense because you have this A-list figure, like, this is Justin Bieber, he's obviously seen shit in the Hollywood industry. Then you have these visuals that can be interpreted in many different ways, and then just mysterious and disturbing promotional choice. I don't know why more people aren't talking about that. Like, it is bizarre. But I want to hear what you guys think about this because I find it to be very interesting. Anyway, the next theory I want to talk about is all about Olivia Rodrigo's debut success and how subliminal TikTok marketing maybe contributed to this. And I think this is 100% true, and it's not just for Olivia Rodrigo. It's kind of in general. So when Olivia Rodrigo released Driver's License in January of 2021, it was honestly one of the biggest debut singles in pop history for a while. Like, it broke Spotify's record for the most streams in a single day for a non-holiday track. And by the end of the week, it was #1 in dozens of different countries. And the song absolutely created such a huge Gen Z buzz, like, around social media in particular. Obviously, it was because of the love triangle between Olivia Rodrigo, Joshua Bassett, and Miss Sabrina Carpenter. And a lot of people think that the reason that this song did as well as it did, because at the time, we have to remember, Sabrina Carpenter was not the pop star that she is now. Like, she was not that big yet. Joshua Bassett, also no, and Olivia Rodrigo was new. Like, they were just on, like, a Disney show together. But the song really took over basically overnight. Like, honestly, it was nuts. And I have to say, for sure, regardless if it's a conspiracy theory or not, TikTok absolutely contributed to the growth of this song, for sure. However, a lot of people believe the conspiracy theory that this record label, Olivia Rodrigo's record label, was paying large influencers to use this song early to kind of get the ball rolling on the virality of the song and turned it into a TikTok trend on its own, which I do think that this happens probably way more than you think it does, and it's kind of nuts. I mean, I think the song has to be good, and I think that it has to be catchy. And once you put money behind it for influencers to make TikTok trends using this song, it's kind of a done deal at that point. Like, it's life-changing, obviously. Like, this was definitely a life-changing thing for Olivia Rodrigo. And also, a lot of music industry insiders point out that the song was given priority on Spotify playlists within hours of a release, which that spot is usually reserved for established superstars. Like, that shouldn't have been happening yet. And Apple Music also featured the song in their top carousel alongside major legacy artists, which is rare for a debut single. Like, this was Olivia Rodrigo's debut single. And so I think, honestly, her label just saw potential and put a lot of money behind it and started getting influencers involved, Spotify involved, and I don't know. That's what I think. I think it's true. I don't even think it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's literally facts, but let me know what you think. All right, the next theory I want to talk about is the idea that Billie Eilish is the Illuminati's youth recruiter. So this is definitely a dark theory. It could have some merit. I understand why the tinfoil hats believe this one, okay? So Billie Eilish's, like, rise to stardom honestly felt like it was out of a Hollywood script. She was homeschooled, she was making music in her bedroom, and she had parents that were in the industry already. Like, it was very classic. The career trajectory was very on point. It was pretty imminent that she would be as big as she is. So the origin of this theory really began circling in 2019 around the time of her debut album, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? And this album's imagery was very dark and surreal and kind of just had unsettling visuals, and it was very far from, like, the bubblegum pop that teenagers were used to consuming at that point. And her music videos had, like, you know, the black stuff rolling from her eyes, spiders crawling out of her mouth, religious imagery, themes of death, nightmares, and possession. And a lot of critics praised her for her originality, but conspiracy theorists saw something else. They saw a young artist serving as a gateway into occult symbolism for an impressionable young audience. So in this conspiracy theory, Billie's role was not to outright preach about the Illuminati or secret societies, but it's to normalize certain aesthetics and themes so that by the time her fans encounter similar imagery in more explicitly occult contexts, they could see this as, like, cool and aesthetic. I mean, if you think about it, Billie Eilish is taking, like, dark symbolism and wrapping it in relatable, catchy music and presenting it through the lens of an edgy young Gen Z girl that's relatable and making it into kind of a fashion statement before the audience even realizes that it's actually an ideological statement. And that kind of creeps me out. So for one, obviously, like, reoccurring symbolism in some of Billie's work. Spiders and insects. Don't like those for many reasons. Spiders have been symbolic in occult imagery as weavers of fate and controllers of reality for a very long time. And then also there's a lot of eye things in her videos, like her eyes are obscured or glowing or like have black leaking from them, and the all-seeing eye is obviously one of the most common symbols to the Illuminati lore. There's also some designs of like upside down crosses, which obviously conspiracy theorists believe that that's like a sign of Satanism and stuff, and I don't know. But overall, I do think that the theory gained a lot of traction because of Billie's age when she debuted. Like, she was only 17 years old when this debut album came out. And that meant that a lot of her audience was made up of teens and preteens. So introducing heavy occult symbolism at such a young age, the theory kind of claims that she's training a generation to associate those visuals with artistry, rebellion, and coolness rather than danger or taboo. And I think that kind of makes a little bit of sense. It just fits into a larger conspiracy theory narrative, kind of, that pop culture is systemically lowering the threshold of what's considered acceptable imagery in youth entertainment. And I think that's very true. And I think we've seen this with like Nickelodeon shows and jokes that were made and all that stuff. Like, it's getting that behavior normalized, or even seeing Leonardo DiCaprio date a bunch of 25-year-olds or 19-year-olds, or just people who are significantly younger than him. And even Taylor Swift, Jake Gyllenhaal, like so many different aspects of that is trying to like kind of normalize that behavior in Hollywood of dating extremely way too young women. And I do think that it all kind of coincides and ties in together, but I don't know. I want to hear your guys' thoughts here, because is it too extreme? Maybe, but I kind of think it could have some truth to it. And I don't even think that this would be something that Billie would particularly like realize was happening either. I just feel like it could just be her label saying, oh, like, I think this would do good, this would be cool. And she's obviously like interested in like that kind of like dark aesthetic, and so it just worked out that way. But I don't think that she's like actively like, yes, this is gonna manipulate the youth, because she was the youth, she is the youth, you know? Like, I feel like she's still so young and probably is not even aware of what's happening here yet. But it's dark. All right, so the next area I want to talk about is the idea that Paris Hilton was secretly groomed to normalize celebrity sex tapes, and I think this is true. I do think this theory makes a lot of sense. So when people think of Paris Hilton in the early 2000s, they obviously think pink tiny dogs, that's hot, all that stuff. But for many years, her public identity was surrounded around her 2003 sex tape called One Night in Paris. And at the time, this leak was framed as a scandal and a violation of privacy, obviously, but within a few years, her career was thriving more than ever. And she became one of the most recognizable celebrities on the planet and pioneered a new type of fame and indirectly inspired a wave of other celebrity leaks. And that's where the conspiracy theory begin. So a lot of people believe that Paris's sex tape wasn't an accident at all, and that she was groomed by either the industry or the people around her to kind of normalize the idea of celebrity sex tapes and using them as a PR tool. So personally, I don't know if I even think that that part is true, but I think Paris Hilton could have been like an example of this horrible, unfortunate thing happening, and then people then going on to use that for their advantage, if that makes sense. Like, let's say Paris Hilton's tape was an accident and it was leaked, and that's obviously very horrible, and people expected it would destroy her career, but obviously it ended up making her more famous. And it just showed the different way the celebrity culture was working. It was a kind of a turning point. Like, instead of disappearing from the spotlight, she literally became more famous. And then suddenly, like, the celebrity sex tape release, like, was career making. And we have that with Kim Kardashian. So a lot of people, I would say 75% of people would believe that Kim Kardashian's sex tape with Ray J was purposely released by Kris Jenner herself, and that's why they're famous and all that stuff. I don't even know if I believe that's true, because it seems like Kim was genuinely like traumatized from that happening. Like, that's a terrible thing to be like released, obviously, without your knowledge and consent. But a lot of people think that Paris Hilton was kind of like the test subjects. Obviously, Kim Kardashian was Paris Hilton's assistant, so they have always been in the same circles and good friends. And so people think that Kris Jenner saw what happened to Paris and decided to do that to Kim Kardashian, making her famous, and obviously it worked. The thing is that even if the leak wasn't fully intentional, the response to it was masterful PR. Like the way that she went about it by not hiding from cameras, giving interviews, she didn't retreat into public life. It doubled down on her reality TV status. This absolutely like boosted her career times a million. And we saw the exact same thing happen with Kim Kardashian. And I'm just saying it kind of makes sense that Paris was the perfect prototype. Whether or not it was intentional, I don't know, but I do think that it is a very interesting theory, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. The next theory I want to talk about is the idea that Lindsay Lohan's scandals were engineered perfectly to break her down and break her spirit overall. And I think that this is honestly kind of true. So obviously Lindsay Lohan's career is one of the most famous dramatic rises and falls in Hollywood history. And then obviously now she's on the come up again with Freakier Friday. Loved it, by the way. I think best like part 2 whatever sequel that I've ever seen. It was iconic. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, she very quickly went from a beloved child star to a tabloid train wreck. And on paper, her decline looks like a classic cautionary tale about fame too young, too much money, too little guidance, and a string of bad decisions. But for conspiracy theorists, Lindsay Lohan's story is a lot darker. They actually believe that her scandals weren't simply the result of personal mistakes, but they were deliberately engineered by powerful forces in Hollywood to break down her spirit, control her image, and ultimately keep her from trying to escape the industry's grip. So because Lindsay Lohan was a child actor, a lot of people believe that she experienced some dark things in the industry and was completely aware of the darker side of Hollywood, like the P. Diddy type of shit that was happening. So the industry decided to make her downfall pretty manufactured and not actually accidental. And the goal was to damage her credibility so that she couldn't speak out about Hollywood's darker side. And I think that that could be true. And also it turned her into a cautionary tale for other young stars that showed them what happens if you step out of line. And I do think that that also makes a lot of sense. A lot of people think that the paparazzi was used as a really big weapon in this scenario because from 2006 to 2010, Lindsay was followed constantly. Photographers were always parked outside of her house, trailing her car. Like, she could not escape the pops at that time. And conspiracy theorists argue that this wasn't just like an, organic media interest, but it was actually coordinated. Some point to how certain paparazzi agencies seem to have exclusive up-close shots of Lindsay, even in private moments, suggesting that there were tips from inside of her circle, which I also think that that could be true regardless of conspiracy theory. I'm sure there were people around her that were selling her out for paparazzi photos, which obviously is just horrible. I also think Lindsay is like the perfect example of this kind of like child star transitioning out of Nickelodeon or Disney and into these more mature roles. And it's just chaos. And a lot of people believe it's because she resisted certain roles or relationships or contracts that the industry wanted her to be in. And the resulting bad press was a punishment for non-compliance. So conspiracy theorists believe that Hollywood's powerful gatekeepers and industry execs turned the media machine against her until she fell into line. I'm happy that Lindsay Lohan had this type of comeback, but it makes me sad to think that her downfall was more manufactured than we think, and that makes me really, really sad, but I kind of believe it. But let me know what you think. All right, the last theory I want to talk about is about Hollywood vampires. So it has been a conspiracy theory for literally ever, like for centuries, that vampires actually do exist, and a lot of people think that they exist within Hollywood. And I just think that there are some celebrities that are interesting to point to in this scenario, and Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton are one of them because they made their red carpet debut together in the early 2000s and they were wearing vials of each other's blood around their necks. And I just think that's bizarre. Like, obviously the media kind of framed it as like edgy and quirky, like kind of like a PR stunt vibe and like the weirdest celebrity trend or whatever. But a lot of conspiracy theorists kind of think this wasn't like harmless and it was more of an occult binding ritual straight out of Hollywood's alleged underworld, one that was like really trying to show us that these celebrities are vampires. And I also saw one of the most interesting TikToks of this girl talking about this theory. It's dark.
There's vampire lairs or secret societies operating out of nightclubs like after hours in Brooklyn. This actress slides into my DMs. She's rubbing elbows with all these people that are way more famous than her. And this one actress who's like an A-lister comes up to her and she's starstruck. And this other lady ends up saying, like, as this event ends ending, hey, there's this other place that we can go to. I think you should see it. I think you'd be really into it. They take this woman's private car or whatever to this part of Brooklyn where she says even the cabs don't don't go. She said it was basically a warehouse. Like there was no windows. They get inside, there's security or whatever. You have to turn off your phones. They go in. She said it was set up like a nightclub. She sits down with this woman and she said that she recognized a bunch of people. A cocktail server walks up to her and says, oh, do you want some of this? And it's a red liquid in a crystal glass. And she's like, she thinks it's wine. So she's not drinking. So she says, oh, is that wine? And the A-lister, this Golden Globe actress that she's with, says, don't ask too many questions. Like, just take one. And she's like, oh, I'm not drinking right now. And she says, no, it's not alcohol. Just take one. And she's like, no, I'm good. The lady that she's with seems upset that she's not going to drink it, but she's like, okay, whatever. So they walk over and they're talking to some director or producer, somebody big that she's trying to impress. And they're talking. And another guy that is there that she doesn't know comes up in the middle of the conversation and tries to bite her neck. And she's like, what are you doing? Who is this guy? And nobody else bats an eye. They're just like, oh, just go with it. Just go with it. Just be like water. Go with the flow.
I mean, I have always personally believed that vampires are real just because I want to, and I want to believe that the Salvatore brothers are going to come hang out. Klaus, like, I'm down. But I do think that this is genuinely, like, kind of a creepy amount of proof that this, I don't know, could be true. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it though, because I don't like it. I don't. Anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let us know in the comments below what you guys think of these pop culture theories. And if you have any conspiracy theories or people that you want me to cover in the pop culture space, let me know. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe for new videos every week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.